I'm back. I hope you guys had a good break, a quick one. Thank you so much, Manar. It was really insightful to hear your thoughts and your tips. So really appreciate it. Next, I'm going to introduce two more special guests, Dr. Amr Haj Umar and Hussein Usman. These guys have taught me everything that I know. So really want to take a moment to recognize them. Really great people. So make sure that you tune in, listen, and if you have any questions, keep them to the end. And looking forward to hear them all. I'll pass it to you guys.
السلام عليكم كيف الحال؟ My name is Hussein Asman. Thank you, Ala and Arif, for just an amazing workshop. Amr and I always dream to be part of something like this and be able to talk to folks and share our experiences. And hopefully somebody is able to take that and create something and help them move on to the next job or next level in their career. We have very few topics that we want to talk about, and we just want to make sure that you're having fun with this discussion. The previous presentation was really professional, and this is gonna be very chaotic right now. So just FYI. So we going to basically share our experiences over the past couple of decades of being in tech in the Silicon Valley here. We'll start with quick introductions. So I am going to introduce Amr and he'll introduce me. So you can go to the next slide, Arif. So I met Amr about as he was coming out of college. He was going to UC Davis and just graduating, starting to look for jobs, and I saw him here in the Bay Area. We're the way I think of Amr is Amr is an immigrant. Like he is like the definition of the word immigrant in the dictionary. There's Amr next to it, the picture of him there. So definitely somebody who hustled, tried very hard in a lot of different directions. While working through a very tough system in this country, trying to, with that family. I saw him get his master's degree, his PhD in a very tough field. And within electronics or electrical engineering, he did wireless communication. For those that know or worked on that area, it's a very tough area to go work on. And then, from a career perspective, I've seen him working at companies like TI, one of the bigger semiconductor companies, going through Pericom is another company, then into test and measurement, working for Tektronix, and now working for NI. He focuses on business development, and that's one thing that we will talk about. Within tech, there's just not tech jobs where you're sitting in a lab and building something. There are jobs where you're running businesses, you're focused on customers, you're focused on products. So we want to kind of expose you to some of those opportunities and what's there. So I'm maybe say hello and a little bit of introduction.
Greetings, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the intro. I did not expect the the immigrant side of it. Yeah, so Hussein and I met probably almost 2 decades ago, and we've been through many journeys. And I would say the soccer field is an important piece. That's where a lot of the socialization happens, both at a personal level, but also at work. Hussein is a really talented engineer. So ever since I met him, he always had boards in his garage, building, tinkering with electronics, always talking about a startup. So literally the idea of a startup from garage. He was a principal engineer at Cypress Semiconductors and started all the way from the bottom, from starting at the entry level and kind of grew up into it, but stayed technical. So he was a lab rat for a long time and got into the early standards of USB and through the way, um, initiated a couple of startups, but we had one startup together, IO Tools, out of my dissertation work. And from there, we both kind of took a pivot from being technical lab rats into the business side of things, or the dark side of things, more into the marketing and the business development. And now he's a director. He moved from product marketing engineering all the way to director of marketing at Lattice Semiconductors. So there's only 3 FPGA companies in the US, um, Intel, Xilinx, and Lattice. So he focuses mainly on AI. So with that, maybe pass it back to you. Start talking about the topics.
Yeah, sounds good. So, as I said, we want to see many questions. We want to see you open up the mic, put on your cameras on if possible, ask your questions. This is a discussion, and anything that you have in mind, please ask it. So, what over the past few years, I've dealt with my nephews and nieces going to college and asking me a lot of questions about what to do. But one of the biggest questions they always ask me, like, what is there? What's in tech? And both of us are hardware folks. So this discussion probably applies to other industries, but we're going to focus on it from areas that we know. So, within tech, you normally come in as a junior engineer, where you're doing either testing or validation or something like that, something simple, building simple things, and you're expected to know the basics, and from there you start building up your career. College just gives you the basic information. Nobody comes out with everything already figured out, so don't feel like overwhelmed and take it one step at a time. The many of the opportunities within hardware, for example, are again like will be a test engineer, somebody who will come and validate a machine is doing what it's supposed to do, or a piece of code is supposed to be doing what it does. Beyond that, you start moving into more senior levels, jobs where you're doing design of a certain function or something like that, and then you step up to a point where you're the expert within the company for a very specific area. I'm probably want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the very specific area is kind of interesting because for me, for example, doing research and working on a PhD, all it means is I know something very specific about a very specific topic, and it kind of almost narrows your scope. Um, but I think one thing I want to talk about too is the journey. Maybe one thing that's similar, when we graduated a year before, everyone was talking about, hey, just graduate. You'll get job offers and bonuses. The economy was really good. And next thing, it was like the deepest recession ever. And we had to basically change our expectation. The first expectation was go to school, get the degree, a job will be lined up. And now it became a very different journey. And unfortunately, we didn't have such a form or a support system or people ahead of us who could kind of guide us. Um, for me, for example, what I ended up doing was volunteer in a RF lab. That's a radio frequency lab. And it was not paid. So I worked under a PhD student who pretty much just stayed like 9 to 5. 5 o'clock, we'll take a break, go play soccer as a team, and then everyone leaves, and he goes back to the lab to run experiments, and I'll go with him. And he's like, "You don't mind this part, staying late?" And I was like, "No, that's the fun part." And that what triggered me into research and thinking about going for my master's, and he opened the door for me to pursue a master's. And that was not in my plans, but that was my kind of pivot. And to Hussein's intro, um, the university became a refugee camp for me. That's the one place I knew how to navigate. I did not have no papers at the time. So I was able to basically get a full fellowship teaching and kind of be under the radar. So there is no one way of doing this. So you kind of have to look at the opportunities around you. Nowadays, I think you all have a lot of areas to go and research. I mean, for one, the internet. That was not an option back then with smartphones and so on, and LinkedIn and connecting. But let me pass it back to Hussein. And if anyone has some comments, please, because I know we are hitting a recession point now, and everyone has their own challenges. So if you could relate to that, please speak up.
I know today some folks. Ahmed is my nephew here, and he graduated recently, and he's coming out of in a recession. So basically, the same thing that we saw when we were coming out, and it's really hard to find jobs. There are companies laying off right and left. If you're a software engineer today, you basically it's tough. It's not easy. So what do you do? And also, if you're, let's say, going through college and you don't have any experience, you want a job, but the jobs all need experience. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. How do you overcome that, right? So both of them are very similar. You kind of need to work on projects. Ambro talked about going to an RF lab and working on an RF lab. You need to learn something, pick up a project, and start working through it. Your resume, if you don't have experiences, should have 3 to 5 projects that you've done. So pick up a hardware, pick up a system, pick up something, and build a project from the beginning and learn one more tool. So one thing that's actionable today that you can do after this session is go figure out, what can I learn? What is the project that I'm going to put on my resume? What are the areas that are hot today that I can work on? And we can talk a little bit about that actually. We can talk about what are the biggest opportunities that exist today in the market, and maybe you can go find projects that are related to that. Another thing you can do when you don't have any experience is you can try to go and just work for somebody, volunteer, freelance. You can open a Fiverr account, provide your services for free for a period of time, for $10 an hour for a period of time. You're a student, you have some level of skills and capabilities, say, you know, Python or C++, just put that up, show the projects that you've done, and see what you can get. You got to try multiple things. You got to try just, you can't sit in one place. Give yourself an opportunity to meet people, to be somewhere where people will see you and give you an opportunity.
Yeah. I think also another way to, so we spoke about how our roles today has to do a lot with business. We do use our technical expertise more because the products are technical. So one way that opened doors for me was certificates. Certificates are fun. They allow you to pivot into new areas. It got me into doing more into the marketing area. Both Hussein and I had no idea about sales or marketing when we started our careers. And the one thing we did learn, the closer you are to the money, the more money you make, and the more decision making in terms of being strategic in the companies and getting closer to the C-suite and so on. So certificates are an excellent way to move from your areas of education. And it goes both ways. If you studied more on the business side of things and but you want to learn more about the technical side of things, you could get some technical certificates. And even as someone who's technical, like Arif, we keep talking about what's the trends in the market. AI is one of the things. where it wasn't even taught in school when we were doing our graduate school. So we continually go and take like free online classes in Coursera and stay relevant. So that's another affordable and fun way of continual development.
All right, so I'm hoping there are some questions, anything that we want to talk about things that are relevant to you. So anything that you in these two topics that were discussed, anything that you want to get more information about. Okay, so we'll go to the next piece here, which is imposter syndrome. Yesterday I was talking to somebody, and this person kept on saying, "Well, I'm not good enough. There's so many people who are so great around me, and you know, we tend to doubt ourselves. It's a normal thing that we just don't think we have all the skills and capabilities to be able to succeed. Then in reality, you're just as good as the person that's next to you. Um, Especially, you went to good school, you studied hard, you got things going for you. You can't just not study, right? You cannot have the basic skills. You got to get those under control. But after you do that, just be confident. Manars talked about being confident earlier. Be confident that what skills you have will land you a job. There's millions of companies and millions of job opportunities that exist out there. Just like there are many of you coming out of college at the same time, there are all these places where you can land. And your confidence is a very important piece of getting you that job. So I don't know if you want to expand on that a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a curveball here. So I think one thing you'll have that we didn't have is a workforce that is at least advertising inclusion, right? And I think this is something that I'd like to talk to you about openly, right? When we joined, the positions we joined was, if anything, there's a lot of doubt even from the other side, where the expectations is we hit the ground running and you had to do more than everyone around you, right? And specifically just being a black man in the force. And I know for a black woman, a Sudanese black woman, probably it's even more. And maybe certain things changed with this generation and a lot of things that went down. And now they talk about inclusion. But these are real things that even at our levels, we have to validate and talk to each other about after coming out of these executive meetings. And if you don't have the confidence, it's unfortunately, I think that's a big reason why there's not a lot of us in tech is it's a very cutthroat and dry area, right? I think it's improved a lot just because young people are coming in with a lot of talent and we definitely bring a new angle and a new mindset and a new different ideas, and it's all about the best ideas, and that's one thing we do have, creativity. So don't doubt yourself. And I loved one thing Manar said. When you interview, you're actually interviewing them. If they have any issues that makes you uncomfortable, that's just a red flag to not work for them. So it is a two-way street. And to Hussein's point, yeah, you could be the best student, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to hit the ground running or expected to hit the ground running. A good company or a good match is someone who wants to develop you, give you an opportunity to develop, and they're excited about your potential and growth.
If any questions on your side.
We'll keep the questions to the end. So if you guys want to keep it going
Yeah,
after you
would
do
like
them,
to
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying to make it into more conversation. It's okay to have the questions now instead of putting them to the end. So if you have anything, it will help us kind of guide the rest of the discussion because we
Okay,
can go
perfect.
in places where it's not helping anybody, right? So anything, I just wanted to get some additional people talking. Anything that you can think of from your journey?
I
Any,
can think of a few things, yes, to that point. Number one is like, there's obviously the technical skills, and then there's the soft skills. A lot of people, when they think about a job, they be like, oh, like I need to learn how to code. I need to learn how to do this technical thing. I need to learn how to use this tool. But what they overlook is the soft skills. So from
Mm.
your experience, like how far did your technical skills take you? And versus how far like did your soft skills like complement that or
yeah, that's a very good question. So if I'm posting a role today for a job and I get two candidates coming to me saying, hey, we want to work, and one of them is just perfect on paper in terms of, you know, great technical skills and all that. And another person who not at that level, but they're just more coachable, more teachable. They're more excited. They have the ability to talk to people, the ability to explain a problem clearly and go, you know, critically think about how to solve it. And so even if the person that had perfect knowledge, if they're, you know, they're difficult, I don't want to deal with them. They just kind of highlights the importance of soft skills. Your personality is part of the deal. And if you're, you know, how to talk to people, how to interact with them, it's going to help you get very far versus somebody who's difficult but very knowledgeable.
Yeah. Uh, I think the past couple of years, 2, 3 years, I just realized for the first time how our social skill as Africans, as Sudanese, just how we interact and so on, right, is um has a price to it. And being technical is one. Yeah, that's something you could study, learn, what so. But some of the social skills and building real relationships, none of this cold relationship, business cards and what so, but just actually really having start making friends through the industry and so on. Now it's becoming literally you're bringing business into your company. And I feel like that's one of my security when it comes to layoffs, because a lot of these customers I connect with, we are actually friends. We text, we actually look forward to connect in different parts of the world, right? And that's a soft skill that I knew I had on a personal level, social level, but I never thought it connects to the workforce. And now I realize a lot of engineers just cannot talk, and it's really hard to find someone who's really technical who could actually, in a human perspective, connect with people. So you need to also find out what skill you have that you're good at, and don't ignore it. Actually keep growing it, and try to figure out how to materialize it. Yeah.
And if you do feel like you have a gap in some skill, everything is, you can learn it. You can go through the process, you can go read, watch videos, join clubs, go figure out how to develop areas that you feel you're weak on. And you know, everybody starts somewhere and you get there. So that's a important thing.
Yusheshi Obezi, I see a hand up. If you could get off mute,
Oshishi,
please.
can you please?
Okay, hi. Good evening from here. It's night over here in Nigeria.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. So I want to talk about the imposter syndrome. Like I want to know how can you actually identify and also overcome it? because I know sometimes some of the what is it called? Okay, just how can you overcome it? Because sometimes you just feel okay, you know how to actually do this work. You can do this work when when you're given the work, you can actually do it. But at the beginning you get scared. Maybe you feel that okay, you can't do this, or you're not worthy to do it, but you actually know that when given the opportunity, you can do it well. I believe this is also one of the symptoms of imposter syndrome, right? So I want to know how to identify and also be able to overcome it. Thank you.
Maybe Amber, you can talk a little bit about identifying it. I'll talk about overcoming it.
Actually, I want to pass it to Manar. I think that's more on her expertise.
Yes, I'm happy to jump in. Thank you, Uchechi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Imposter syndrome is real. I think step one is not ignoring the feeling. The feeling is coming from somewhere. Why are you having these doubts? Is it because you are comparing yourself to your peers? Do you see somebody's light years in front of you and they're the same age as you? What is driving that negative pattern of thinking? If it is comparison, then my advice here is to not compare yourself to those around you. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and everybody's journey just looks a little bit different. So it's not fair to yourself to simply compare yourself to somebody else. Something that I like to do, because honestly, I struggle with imposter syndrome as well. I've been in the tech space for a few years and have been laid off 3 times. And so each time I've been laid off, I'm struggling with, do I belong here? Am I capable? Like I have some of those thoughts as well. So something that I'm personally actively doing to address them is positive self-talk. I think that's where it simply starts. So for each negative thought, like create this as maybe like an activity for yourself. Jot down some of those negative patterns of thinking that you're having for yourself. And then for each negative thought that you have, whether you're doubting your intellect, your skills, your accomplishments, whatever the case may be, create a positive note for yourself. Whether you're like, I am, maybe the thought is, I'm not qualified to be in the space. The positive thought can be, I'm bringing great value with the skills that I have to the space that I'm interested in being in. So just having confidence in yourself, because when you show up to these interviews or conversations with a negative mindset, it comes off as maybe inconfident or insecure in your experience. But try to use that, I guess, activity to kind of check and balance what those negative thoughts may be as it relates to imposter syndrome.
I'll add 2 things. Just celebrate successes. Whenever you do something great, think about it, internalize it, and say, yeah, I'm capable of doing all kinds of stuff. So just celebrate your successes and let go of trying to be perfect in everything. There's no such thing. It's impossible for you to be perfect. And yeah, so celebrate, understand that you're going to have some things that you're not good at, and it's okay. I deal with this a lot of times where I sit in rooms and I look around me and I'm the only Black person. Everybody's white around me. And it's a boardroom, there's a CEO and there's, a bunch of C-suites, and you got to present something. You got to be very confident, sharp, to the point, what you're talking about. There's money on the line, whatever it is. So just just think about what have you done in the past, how well you accomplished those, center yourself, focus on the points that you want to deliver. And, I'm bringing it from a presentation perspective, but that's how I normally think of it.
I think, Arif, is it the time check?
There's a question in the chat by Sahad. If you would like to unmute yourself and say it, or I can read it.
Yeah, my question was how to make sure a project is noteworthy enough to be on your resume and showcases valuable and relevant skills.
Yeah. I think you definitely need guidance with that. You should talk to people who are just ahead of you. Somebody's trying something ahead of you. Ask them what's the greatest things that are, there's focus on today. Let's say AI. AI is just the hottest topic out there. What can I do within AI today that can be a learning experience that will get me a job? So look up to somebody, go connect with them, ask them those questions, find how you can find a good project around areas that they recommend for you.
Yeah, I would say too, you should have a generic resume, but if you have a specific job you're applying for, tailor your resume. So the project could be very different, and you could talk about the project differently. Meaning, if there's certain bullets in terms of certain skill sets, each bullet should be addressed by something on your resume. So if they're asking about soft skills, for example, then that particular project, you could talk about your role in the project. If it's something technical, you could pull in the technical piece. So it's almost kind of have to fit based on the job, yeah. And you just have to remember too, this is the way I look at it. A resume is just to initiate the discussion. Once you get that interview, then the preparation goes beyond, right?
That's a good transition point. The next point in our topics here is how to stand out in an interview. So, you worked on your resume looks great. You applied to a job that 100 other people applied for and you got the interview. So what do you do next? The reason why Indians are successful in tech is the following. They help each other. They actually tell each other what the job entails, what's in it. How do you, how do you interview? What does the company care about at this moment? And that really helps an interviewer stand out during an interview. There are so many times where that happens to me, where I look at the candidate and they're like, all the things that they're talking about are things that I'm thinking about. So obviously somebody had told them those things, right? It's so clear. I'd have had done that with us a few times, and so the ways to stand out in an interview: first, go to the company's website, look at what are their products, what are they talking about on the front page of their website. That's what's important to them today. All right, so make sure that you know about that. Look at their press releases. What products have they released recently? Look at, from a financial perspective, what are people saying about the company? Weaknesses, things like that, right? So we'll get an understanding of what the company is all about. Two, look in your LinkedIn account and see if there are people in common that work for that company, and reach out to these people. Tell them about yourself, tell them that you're, the job you're going after, and ask them to give you more details either about the job or the company that can help you in an interview. And even better, if they can talk to the hiring manager and get more details for you, but not necessarily you're going to get that all the time. But definitely learn about the company, learn about, make sure you know somebody in the inside, and get from them the inside scoop on what's happening on that job. That's gonna just set you apart from a lot of the other folks that don't have that details.
To ask a question here, maybe take it one step back, about the role of mentors. You guys have obviously like pivoted in your careers multiple times. So like, and then you've progressed like what helped you advance in your career? Like, and what helped you like decide that I want to make these pivots? Did someone influence your decisions? And then my next question is like about regarding like the role of mentors. All right, like what is the value of having a mentor? And how do you approach those mentors? And how do you know who's the right mentor to have?
Yeah. So I think luck has to do a lot with it, and circumstances. I would say for both of us actually, we kind of had the similar approach where someone actually reached out to us and asked us to consider pivoting from a very technical kind of setting into like technical marketing. So relationship, it was a friend through college that I stayed in touch with, and who reached out to me. Um, and I did agree to take a step back in terms of pay, in terms of position, to start something new and get into marketing. So part of it is taking the risk sometimes to get into a new area and position yourself in a way that you'll be successful as well. You might be new into the marketing piece of it, but the technical piece is what's pushing you forward. In my case, that's what happened. But most importantly, having the relationship where someone from the inside gave you the scoop, made sure that your resume was tailored and you were able to get that first conversation. And they actually took beyond the mentorship. They actually positioned you for success to be able to align you with the right people who will do the right interview and see what's needed and why he chose you. And I think that's very important, because sometimes when you're being interviewed, and I think Manar touched on this, is like um, some of the interviewers themselves might not be good interviewers and start asking about their own job and how would you approach the problem they're working on. And at times, I think at this point that I interview people, the right way to interview is to look at someone's resume and see what he worked on, and he should be able to defend everything on his resume. So back to Sahar's question earlier on projects and what, so whatever is on your resume is something that you should be able to speak on very confidently. And if the interviewer, also to Manar's point earlier, starts asking about something you don't know, that's actually the best answer at times. It's like, I don't know. I'm willing to learn. And to Hussein's points earlier too, just having that excitement and engagement with when having these conversations, it comes across. And a lot of it has to do more than talking, listening, to be able to connect on what people are saying. So being an active listener, taking your time, not responding right away. I think these are things she pointed to. And one thing I like to talk about is, Manar, you brought this up too, dressing for an interview. And believe it or not, I actually dress the way I dress now for my conferences and my interviews. I don't own a tie. I just got a sport jacket because Hussein came to visit. But you need to be confident and comfortable with literally what you wear. And a lot of these interviews nowadays, maybe it's different in tech, so I'll talk about what we know, but it's becoming more relaxed. And you need to just be comfortable and feel in your own space. Yeah. So
As Amr was talking, I just thought back into the jobs that I went through. I've never got a job by applying online. Never. All the jobs that I got are through somebody. And somebody will pull me in or say, hey, I'll go somewhere and I'll provide a resume, talk to somebody face to face. It always happened that way. But they're all connected. And from job one to job two, I did something in job one that got me job two, and so on. And as you progress through your career, managers will leave, and managers will leave and pull you along the way. Pivoting from career for me was a decision also very similar to somebody recognizing, hey, you could be a good, customer facing person. One should do this, try that. And I did have to take a step back on my career from a technical perspective to go do that. It wasn't easy. So I think we're coming close to the end of time here. So we want to.
I just want to say one thing. Just remember, like, it's a journey. So there's different seasons. So at some point, you might be working a job that you might not be too excited about, but there's a certain skill set that you could really gain. enjoy it and take your time. It might not be, you might not be able to move to what you want to move to right away, but for that season, just focus on what you could get out of it, count your blessings, and just be patient. And when another door opens, then you could leverage that skill and move to the next season.
There's certainly ups and downs. I think we all had our fair share of getting laid off or companies reducing, forces and all of that. It's just a normal piece of business. Keep going. Don't worry about it. You'll find your next place. There's a need for you. There's ways for you to be productive and make an impact. The last topic here, I don't know if you covered standing out in an interview enough, but I will drop my email here. Feel free to reach out about any of these topics. But that's an important one. Talk to people within the company, read about the company, just understand what they're about at the moment. That will help you to go very far. Finally, negotiate pay. This topic on its own could be an hour, easily. But yeah, we're either immigrants or first generation, so we don't know what our value is. We don't know what is the pay for a specific position. And so this is another place, and this is a theme throughout this discussion. You need to network. You need to know people who are in this area in order for you to figure out how to position yourself best. But never give, and Manar probably a lot more on this topic. I personally don't give how much I'm looking for. I never say that. I let them always come to me with what they're willing to pay for the position. Understand from just researching or looking at people who are within the company or similar positions at other company, what is the range for that position? Always do recognize that they're offering you something, thank them for what they're offering, and say, this is what I think I expect for this job, and give some reasons. These are this job in this area, it's typical pays around this much, and so on. And you normally get paid salary, you get paid bonuses, you get paid stocks in some cases. So gotta understand all the possible buckets that you can score in, basically. And so that's very important. That's, again, very connected to networking and knowing people who are in the field.
Yeah. Knowing your worth. I mean, it's interesting because the best time to look for a job is when you have a job, and that allows you to kind of negotiate. And it's interesting that you might be very passionate about your job, you think you're happy, and then when you start looking around, you start realizing you're leaving a lot on the table. So one thing I learned early on, I read some books about negotiation, and it was very, I didn't know how to approach it because I don't want to lose the job because I didn't have another job lined up. And one thing I learned is even the employer gets more excited about you when you negotiate, because then they know that they're getting a good candidate who actually knows his worth and he actually researched. And there's some really good website. PayScale is one. It's pretty accurate and it actually helps you based on your location, geographically, your degrees, years of experience. Glassdoor is another great one, which tells you a lot of the inside, dirty laundry about the companies, what people think about the CEO, how much people are getting paid. And yeah, I think negotiation is an important one. Yeah.
Blind is another app. That app it's people from these companies posting how much they're getting paid. So you're getting a very clear, somebody in this position within this company, this is how much they're making. Once you get a job or you start making money from whatever salary you negotiate, you're kind of locked in until you move again. So gotta make sure that from the beginning you get in at a good somewhere where you're comfortable with.
Just one point, I'll pass it to Manar. We are very open in terms among ourselves in terms of how much we make and so on, because that's how we actually know how to negotiate. So I'm seeing this more and more with the younger generation, where people are actually openly talking about their salaries, and that's how you could stay competitive. Manar, I'll pass it to you.
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback off the point that you made on the book that you read around negotiation. Employers are scared. If you know how to negotiate and you know your worth, to us, to your recruiter, it displays that we may lose you in the market. If you're telling us that, you know, this is your budget and you know your worth and this is what you want to do, the conversations that we have internally is, okay, Amro's probably being considered at other companies that are offering this. If we're not able to match it or do something close to it or negotiate, then we might lose this candidate in the market. So definitely be comfortable having those conversations, because it's your salary at the end that's being impacted. The recruiter's not being impacted at all. And then to Hassan's point earlier, if they're asking you like, what are you looking to make in this role? Never give a number. We're going to take the first number you give us, hold on to it, and then that is most likely what you're going to get offered in the end. And typically, folks are not giving themselves enough credit when they're sharing that number, so it's not something that's even competitive for yourself to be making. Maybe it's the same amount as what you made the last time. And then for those applying to roles in the state of California, it is a new law now. I think in 2023 it was passed that employers must share the range for the position on the job posting. So if you're in an interview and they're asking you, they should be able to share openly what the range is if it's not already on the job description. And something that I like typically when I'm interviewing candidates, if I ask them like, hey, what are you looking for? What makes sense for you? Is when they reverse it back to me and they're like, hey, Manar, what's the budget for the role? What is the budget for the role? What is the max that you can offer? And then that's another way that you can approach that conversation, but never settle for less, because to Hassan's point, if you start off lower than what you want, your marginal increase is only going to be much smaller than what it could have been if you started off at a higher rate.
Yeah. I'll add one thing. I mean, based on my experience, I'm not saying that's the way you all should do it, but that was my experience. If you are not getting the promotions and the opportunities in one company, moving to a next company, the rule of thumb is like 30% increase of pay. So that could be one of the approaches. And the first 6 months of any company I joined was worth a graduate degree in terms of learning and new skill sets and understanding new culture. So yeah.
All right, so kind of closing up here the discussion. Throughout every topic that we talked about, something that stood out is networking. And there's a person on this call who's from Nigeria joining to network. That's a great example of how somebody is just reaching out to try to go into another network and meet new people. And definitely that's the biggest tool that you should be working on. If there's any takeaway from today, is just to continue to network, join clubs, NESB, SWE for women, you know, get a mentor, put yourself out there. That's the point.
We have a question by Amani. Amani, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello. I wanted to ask about what Manar said about the salary ranges on the job description. So yes, I have seen that. But one thing that I've always been unclear about is, and maybe it's company specific, but so is that supposed to be like a starting range, or like your range like as you hold the position? You know what I mean?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you referring to what they're posting on the job description? Like, is that number your starting range, or is it what you're able to make throughout the position?
Yes, that is the question.
Okay. So typically, we are supposed to post the entire range, whether it's like 80K to 100K. It's typically a 20 to 30K range. That's how it should be. But it is for starting because you're interviewing for, let's say, a level 3 role at the time. You're going to promote to level 4, level 5, and now we're looking at different brackets of pay. But that is just starting salary for that role.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then I see Uchechi has a question as well. If I don't know if we have time.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
we can take two
Okay.
more questions. So.
2 more.
Okay, hi again. Okay, I want to ask, in a situation whereby a recruiter is asking about your current pay, what is the best answer or best way to handle that? Because sometimes I find you kind of I don't know how to put it, but I just find the question kind of weird. But like, how do you handle such situations?
I have a very generic answer. I'm not comfortable sharing.
Agreed. That's a great answer. Because honestly, Uchechi, it doesn't benefit the recruiter in any way to know how much you're making now. I have a specific range for the position. How much you're making should not impact that. So just saying, I'm not comfortable disclosing that. And they should be okay with it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Arif, I think that's a wrap for us. Back to you.
I want to see if anybody else has a last question before we wrap it up.
Mhm.
We're going once, twice, thrice. Okay. That being said, thank you so much for our speakers today. You guys were great. I really enjoyed the session. For those of you who have joined us and would like to stay in touch, this is the last session of this workshop, session number 4. We'll probably have more series for other stuff in the future. We can do more creative development in the future. The only way we know that you're interested is if you stay engaged with us. In the chat and the screen right here, you should be able to see our website for SANC. We have an Instagram page where we constantly post our events, whether they're in person or online. We have a LinkedIn page. The LinkedIn page is the best way to communicate with us if you have anything professional development related. And last but not least, we do have a SANC YouTube channel where all of these sessions that we've had in the past will be posted there. I know a few of you guys asked for recordings of the previous sessions, and if anybody missed those, those were really great. So make sure that you check out our channels, share them with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I should have a list of everyone who signed up for these events. I'll be following up with my email, Alaa's email, and everybody else on the call, all of our speakers. Feel free to reach out. Don't feel like a stranger. Would love to hear from you. And with that being said, this workshop was offered to you by SANC. I would like to give one more thanks to our speakers, Hussein, Amr, Manar, and Ala from last session. Of course, myself and my partner in crime, Ala Suleiman, couldn't have done this without you. You guys have been great. You guys were the best part of this session for attending. Would love to stay connected. And that being said, I'd like to give thanks